Well, hello and welcome back to the West Ham Network.
Hello.
DJ Rusty Boy, you're joining me, mate.
I know. Let's just do it properly. There you go, Spell.
There you go. There you
There we
go.
go.
How you doing, mate? I mean,
I'm all
listen,
right.
we've come off of a very good win. We're rocking and rolling. We've got 3 points. We're pushing our way up the league.
We're pushing again. That's it. Outside the relegation battle, we've got one manager sacked this year, which is good. I think was it last season or no, it might have been 2 seasons ago. I think we had 3 managers sacked based on we'd beaten them the week before and the manager had got sacked. So that's one down, and we've barely just left September. Great game.
I tell you what, we needed that though, didn't we?
We certainly did, man. We certainly, and as I was saying to you this morning when we were having our little catch up, it wasn't just for what was on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. You mean everybody walked off, people were happy. As I said, it took me about an hour and a half to get out of bloody Westfield car park, and there wasn't really anyone shouting at each other. There was basically people like honking their horns, shouting irons, and so it was nice. It was nice, but it was needed. It was needed for everything, I think, based on what's gone down recently. But onwards and upwards, hopefully.
Absolutely. Well, this is the analysis show. I know you've got a name for it, and I know you probably get a little bit frustrated I don't use the name for it.
Antonalise, yeah.
But this is a bit of analysis. So what we get to do is obviously we've seen the game, but we look into it a little bit deeper. We pick up particular players and take the images from it and try and show the visuals from the game in itself. And a couple of particular scenarios, I suppose you could say, we want to talk about today. You can see from the title of the show, it's all about, for me, Lucas Paqueta. I've said it to Russie B. I said we have a special player on our hands, and his performance yesterday wasn't where he's at 100%. But if he gives us that, what he gave us last night, plus a couple of extra percent, then my word, Russ, he's a proper all-rounder, isn't he? He's a proper all-rounder.
There's a reason why he's first choice for Brazil.
Yeah.
He's no mug. He's no mug. There's a reason why he cost us, almost 50 million quid. He ain't a mug player, He's just, and I think it's about finding the right role for him within our setup. But we know what he brings. But he's got a hell of an engine. I tell you, that really surprised me when we signed him. How much he likes to get involved, how much he likes to get stuck in at both ends of the pitch, which is great. Yeah. But I just, as a tune before we started, I just think we need to find the not the position but the role, because actually it reminds me a little bit of when we had Carlos Tevez. When we first had him, he was all over the pitch. He was a headless chicken. I'm not saying Paqueta is a headless chicken at all, but it's almost like this bit, then Curbs came in and said, right, don't do that, you stay up front and we'll give you the ball. And then Carlos Tevez became the Carlos Tevez we know now in terms of West Ham sort of folklore, and I think that's the same with Paqueta. It's like, you don't need to do that bit. We want you in the attacking third, because I think that's where you actually could have the most joy, particularly. I mean, there's some beautiful football between Paqueta and Scamacca and Fornals when he came on as well. Some nice little one touches and beautiful football. Really nice for change.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. First and foremost, though, I want to kind of address a little bit about the game from Everton and the comparisons to the game against Wolves. So I'm going to talk a lot about the gaps that you found in the defence, and also the lack of intent and the staticness in West Ham. If you go back to the Everton game, which is easy to do and easy to forget, but I think it shows you maybe within reasonably how far West Ham have come in the space of the international break here. But this is an attacking option for West Ham. And this is against Everton. You can see, obviously, Antonio. You can see Jared Bowen there on the right-hand side. And it's just not really providing us with options. Everton have pretty much solid control of the forward line there at West Ham. And it's just want to touch on it briefly. Let me see if I can move on to the next screen. Again, look at the options here. Declan Rice at the back post passes through the middle to Pablo Fornals. Look here. Look at this big space, Russ. And no one's in there. You've got the players all standing static. You've got the full solid line here of Everton defenders. It's not giving West Ham an option. It's not looking great. It's not looking intentful, to get forward here. Then this is an option about the gaps at the back here. This is obviously in reference to Vladimir Coufal. And you can see here he's marking the man, but look at the gap here. This is where they obviously Everton attacked in that game. Again, look at the gap here, opening up as well. And again, this is another version of West Ham with our lack of intent. You know, we've got an attack down the left hand side, but look in this area right here. Where are the West Ham players? And you can start to build, can't you? You can start to see well, how are West Ham going to progress and how are we going to move forward? What do you think from what I've shown so far?
Well, I mean, and as you said, you know, it was. I mean, I wouldn't just say it's the Everton game. We can look back further, Aston Villa, that first half at Villa, particularly. It is that it's always. It does seem, it was almost like a real lack of options in terms of whoever played up front, or and they always had to almost like end up checking back and then playing it back, and then maybe all back to the goalkeeper and start again. Well, yesterday there just seemed to be a bit more zip. I mean, it's people sort of wanting the ball more, and it might be because when we go one up, it was a good feeling. I mean, to be honest, Wolves still had 70% possession, something ridiculous like that, but they didn't really do much to hurt us, I think. And for me, it was just there was when we had the ball, we had intent. It was rather than necessarily looking back all the time or sideways, they were looking forward. Whether it's Scamacca, who, he'd drop into that gap and pick the ball up and turn and look for Bowen usually on the right side. You had Soucek overlapping sometimes as well, which was lovely to see. And obviously Kira as well overlapping Bowen. And yeah, it just seemed to be a bit more sort of fluid, a more fluid style of football than there has been recently. It's been very stop-start at West Ham, trying to hit them on the counters. But we actually, maybe because it was Wolves, maybe we thought we could. Maybe we went out the blocks, which is very unusual for us. A, at the beginning of a game, and B, at the beginning of a break.
My team news, that was the biggest thing, wasn't it? So let me get into the first player that I want to talk about, and that's Lucas Paqueta. This is the title of the show. We have a special player. So I'll bring you up his game stats first and foremost. This is his stats for the game. 86% pass completion, 59 touches, 50% ground duels won, 100% aerial duels won. He only lost the ball 11 times in the game. He had 2 clearances, excuse the spelling mistake there, 2 interceptions, and of course 2 tackles. There's his heat map there. You can see the amount of ground that the man covers. It's a ridiculous amount of ground, isn't it, Russ?
It is, and it's ridiculous when you think he's a number 10 as well. He was playing as a 10. I don't even know what role he was playing really, but he was sort of there in the team sheet as it read down as a 10, and he spent probably just as much time in our defensive half as he did in the attacking half, which again is what I think because he is such a good player. If he had all that time in the attacking half, what could he bring? What could he bring to that team? You know?
Well, this is, I'm going to bring up some of his particular highlights in the game. I mean, this is Wolves with some attacking intent, but look at Paqueta.
Exactly,
right here. He just gets himself involved, but he's actually affecting the game though, Russ. I mean, he's getting touches on the ball all the time. This is him again with his progressive runs. I mean, the biggest thing I said about Paqueta when we brought him in, and I think we all knew this, was he's a progressive forward player. He thinks forward, doesn't he, when he gets the ball? Another clip here, he comes back, does his defensive duties. Look at his mindset. He's driving forwards, and he's not worried. When we done the kind of scout report, you could say it on Paqueta when we were bringing him in, he works really well in tight spaces with a lot of players around him, and he knows how to get out of those positions. And you can see this here. You can see Scamacca dropping in deep. You can see Rice and Soucek obviously in there thinking, on you go, son.
Yeah, but also, I mean, interesting that one you just went through is you've got corner in the top left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what we've missed. When we play on the left, when we play a left-sided person on the left of that 3, who is Fornals, for example, you don't get the outlet.
No.
And unfortunately, obviously, we didn't get enough time to see that outlet because he had a terrible tackle by Podence. But yeah, that's what I like to see. Options.
Yeah. Absolutely. Here, this is him again, dropping back in to collect. This is him collecting the ball. But the thing is, he's collected this ball, and look what he's doing. He's already read the fact that Jared Bowen's on his front foot, and look where he's putting the ball.
Yeah, and it was a good pass, yeah.
And it was a great pass at the time. Again, this is the ball finding its way to him. He's running onto the ball. If you look back at the clip I showed you from the Everton game, when we were on the attack, there was no one in this area here at all. The difference is, look at Cornet Look at Paqueta, like you said. It really is interesting. Again, coming back, working on his defensive duties. The interesting thing here is look at the amount of Wolves players in and around Paqueta. Paqueta.
Yeah.
Look at him, and he doesn't lose the ball in in his possession in this area. Where I think the kind of West Ham as of
Yeah,
late,
because if I remember that, I think he played it in between those two defenders for the
he actually did. Yeah, he
for
did.
the run for
Yeah,
the 4-4 now to run onto. I think it was
yeah,
Or Chris,
absolutely.
yeah.
And then look at him here, back to goal. I watched a really interesting podcast. I think people that's been out for a while. It's Gary Neville interviews Paul Scholes. They walk around the park in Oldham, and Gary Neville says, "What's your biggest bugbear about footballers?" And he said, "When they don't look over their shoulder." He said, "I literally don't understand how any footballer in this world can play without looking over the shoulder." But he says a lot of them have made it by doing it. Paqueta lives and breathes by looking over his shoulder, as you can simulated in this picture. But I think in order for him to play the way he does, Russ, he has to. I mean, he collects the ball. Look at him. He's already known that there's a player there available for him. And the funny thing is, I'm adamant he plays the ball through to Soucek right in here.
I think he does. I think he reverse passed it into Soucek.
Yeah.
It's not always the obvious ball.
No, it's not. And that's the thing here. He gets the ball again. Players on him tight. Look where the ball is. Progressive pass forward to Antonio. Antonio then takes a touch, passes it into Jared Bowen. Even in tight spaces, the man can make a connection. Here he is again, driving forward with the ball. He coming back doing his defensive duties. He won several headers from corners yesterday. Russ as well.
Yeah, he was front post man, really, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, a kick out from Fabianski, winning the header, progressive forward pass. I think we actually got a touch here from Scamacca. Ball's coming back the way. Bang, who's there? Paqueta in the middle of the park. This is why I talk a lot, Russ, about play. I get what people are saying about playing Paqueta a little bit further forward. I don't know if I want him there, personally. I think I want him in that right beside. I don't know. I'm in two minds because I'm seeing what he's capable of doing in that particular role.
I think when obviously when he came in, obviously we just lost out to buying Onana, who was very much a defensive, Tommy Soucek replacement. That's sort of how I saw Onana, whereas Paqueta, to me, is more of a forward thinking player. So it's a different type of player, but I think they need to. You need to score goals to win games, and I think actually Paqueta, I think Tommy played quite well yesterday as well. So I thought, defensively we were quite sound with those two, him and Rice, which allows Paqueta to go forward a lot more.
Yeah.
And that's what I want, because I think that's, as you said, progressive, forward thinking, tight spaces. He would, being just up top with Scamacca or playing just behind him would make a huge impact. On the club.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. Another thing here that I'm intrigued about is the fact that, in difficult situations, the ball to his chest, he plays the ball in a progressive manner from this set play.
Didn't he do like a chested it?
I think that was a kind of later on one he did. Yeah. Actually, he chested it forward here. This was a great pass into Jared Bowen, where unfortunately Jared Bowen didn't get the. But this was quick thinking. I think this was a one-touch pass. But look at the vision, straight, just penetrates the defence, something we've missed heavily for a long time. I mean, there's so many images here I've got from Paqueta's game individually. Again, look, collects it on his chest, tight against the player. I think he really likes it, tight against the player, but he doesn't lose the ball. Look at him, defensive duties. He doesn't lose the ball in this form of play. Again, really, really clever footballer, back doing his defensive duties, and he's effective at it. And bang, straight away. Declan Rice is pointing. I was about to point to the screen there. Declan Rice is pointing, coming forward. Paqueta, what does he do? Plays the ball forward. There he is again, winning the headers, the knock-on headers for Scamacca. I've got so much of this. Like another defensive header in the corners. And that's a different one, so we'll come on to that in a second. But it just shows you, the all-round play from the man. Paqueta. And like you said, it allows players like Tommy Soucek to do the job that he did, which I thought he had a very good game. And here's the stats for the game, and look at his heat map for the game. 79% pass completion, 59 touches, 2 key passes, 100%, excuse the spelling mistake again, accurate crosses, 50% ground duels won, 100% aerial duels won, 11 times he lost possession, 4 clearances, 1 block shot, and 5 tackles. It was back to Tommy Soucek of old, wasn't it?
It was. It took him a while to get into his groove. I think there's a couple of, particularly first half, there was a couple of stray passes, and I was like, oh, here we go. But to his credit, he grew into the game. I mean, the first 15, 20 minutes, there was a few, but he grew into the game. And yeah, it was Tommy Soucek of old, really. The only thing that he didn't do, really, which actually Deck mentioned in his post-match interview with Rob, was getting into the box. Getting into the box and being that aerial threat, which is what, we want from Tommy Soucek. I think there was once, I think he got in there in the first half, I think it was. But yeah, not enough. And I think, as you said, he got in the way and he broke up a lot of play. Got his foot in. Considering Wolves had a lot of possession, he did get his foot in a bit. And as you said, so many interceptions and stuff. It was great to see. It was good to see. It shows a character of a man when they're not playing as well as they have been, to particularly international duty as well, to do that and to play like that.
Absolutely. As we move on, though, I mean, Scamacca started up top instead of Antonio. Right decision, fantastic goal. He got in the game. This was his game stats before we start looking into his game individually. 71% pass completion, 1 goal, 22 touches, 1 key pass, 100% cross accuracy, 50% long ball accuracy, 100% ground duels won, 5 times he lost possession with 1 clearance in the game. I mean, Scamacca's, you can look at his heat map here, and obviously it faint yellow, but you could see he's literally, again, everywhere.
Yeah. And obviously the heat maps are always like touch maps. So yeah, so it's where he's got the ball. Yeah. So as you said, he does find that pocket, doesn't he? Just between sort of halfway into the opposition's half. That's where he tends to sort of his starting point, in it, really. And he takes a lot of ball there. But as I say, what I was really impressed with yesterday was when he had the ball, particularly in that sort of like, halfway back to goal, he'd turn and always look, and he was always looking to get someone in, whether it was Bowen usually on the right hand side and then going. He's got fantastic movement, and as Deadly Don Hutchinson said when we interviewed him a couple of weeks ago, play him and he'll score, and he has. I mean, he started 5 games and scored 4 or something. Something like that. But yeah. I thought he was brilliant.
And these are the sort of players that can have a positive impact on other players like Jared Bowen, who I'm not talking about yet. I would love to talk about him now, but I'm going to talk about him when we go on to a different segment of the show. But I'll focus a lot on Scamacca's individual performance here. Again, I mean, I'm just going to show you a whole host of clips for him here, getting involved, not scared to get himself stuck about with the players. And the good thing I loved about him, Russ, yesterday, I think everyone would agree with me, is hold-up play. His, again, play in tight spaces and getting out of those tight spaces with reasonable amount of ease. He's a clever footballer, isn't he?
He is. Yeah. The only I think one of the only frustrations I had yesterday was we didn't target Ruben Neves enough with more sort of high balls enough. It was
on the yellow cards.
Yeah, there was a lot on the floor, which is great, which is really nice to see. But actually, you've got a makeshift centre back pairing there, or back 3. Obviously, with Nathan Collins not playing because of that tackle with Jack Grealish and being suspended, and I would have liked us to really dominate because we've got some big boys there. But Scamacca, I just thought what I really liked about, there was one in the first half where he drifted out wide. He got the ball on the edge of the box, and he checked back in onto his right hand side and curled a really lovely cross. I think it was Tommy Soucek on the right hand, and it was like that just shows he's not, sometimes he puts his head down and goes for it, and that's great. But and you can, I mean, sometimes he plays it, when it was Sassuolo, sometimes him and Raspadori would swap and he'd almost play like a 10. And you get that feeling he could easily drop in and play that, if God forbid we put Antonio up front and played him at a 10, that could happen. Could you imagine?
But I mean, look at this here, dropping deep, collecting the ball, tight spaces. What does he do? Again, progressive play, finds the space, breaks the two defenders, no problem at all. And bang, what have we got up top? Options, Corney,
Yeah.
Bowen, Soucek's driving forward, Declan Rice there covering. We've got options, Russ. And then his first and foremost thinking is, I'm going to get forward, which is what you want from a striker.
Yeah.
I think this is his. I think this was offside. I think this is his attempt.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what I love about it was he gets the ball and he thinks, I'm going to have a dig. And,
Yeah.
and it was close.
Yeah,
It was
it was a
close.
good
And it's
shot.
good. Do you know what though? Even though the whistle was blown for that, that was good to let him get a chance.
Shows intent. Shows intent, doesn't it? And it shows intent. And it's almost like we're a bit shot shy sometimes. We don't have players who, because they tend to sky the shots more often than not. But obviously the goal it was outside the box. He had a dig, and that one as well had a dig. It was a really straight, really tight angle, but he was very close of it.
Absolutely. Again, drop deep. He wins the ball, feeds it off to the player, makes the run forward, collects the ball, and he sold the defender because he doesn't go forward here. He cuts inside and then plays on. He's just a really, really clever footballer. Obviously, this leads up to his goal. He plays a fantastic ball through to Jared Bowen, that then ends up finding his way back to Scamacca for the goal. I think this maybe is the opportunity you're talking about out on the left-hand side where he drives forward.
That's
isn't
it.
it?
And he sees Soucek just to the right there,
yeah. Really, really clever vision from the player, getting himself involved again. There you go, dropping deep, out wide right, driving forward, looking for options. Look at the space here, Paqueta, Rice, much different from the Everton game as well, just loads and loads of stuff here, getting dirty, getting down and dirty, winning the balls, winning the headers. Him and Paqueta swapping up. Again, options moving forward for West Ham. And then, there you go. There's Scamacca's performance for you. Happy with that?
Yeah, I thought he was mesmeric. It was a real good forwards, like a proper striker, not a forward, but a proper striker, and we've missed that. And as I said, I never criticise Antonio's hearts because he always gives it a go, but he's never, Scamacca's been a forward since a very young age. So in terms of movement, in terms of, as you said, that touch and go, that's something he's probably been doing since he was like 8 or 9 or 10. So it's almost like muscle memory, and you can't teach that. Teach that, and that's what we've missed, having a proper striker. You look at Haaland today, for example. He's the same thing. He knows what he can. It's the anticipation. That's what a real good striker brings.
Absolutely. Now, listen, going back into our defence, David Moyes made a choice, and his choice was, I'm going to bring Dawson in, I'm going to drop Sefal, I'm going to put Kira out on the right-hand side. Let's take a little look at Craig Dawson, first and foremost. No nonsense. You know what you're going to get from him, but look at the stats. 96% pass completion, 28 touches, 100% long ball accuracy, 7 out of 7 that was as well. 1 clearance, 100% ground duels won, and he only lost possession in the game once. Great performance from Craig Dawson. And just to give you some of his highlights here, him and Adama Traore, he just bossed them about.
Yeah, I mean, West Ham Clips he shows all 3 of them. There's 3. That was 1, 2, and that was the 3rd one.
And then this is the one here, clapping.
It's fucking Craig. Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
that's the best one. That's the best one. And he called Adam. Oh God! What did he call him? He called him something.
You can oil up your arms all you want.
Yeah, you can oil up the baby oiled armed up something else. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it was. It really, really was a great performance, and I think that's what we needed, was that strong, no nonsense defender at the back there in order to deal with any threat that was coming, but really allow us to push Kira out onto the right-hand side, and resting our good friend Vladimir Sefal. Now, I'm just going to bring up to you Vladimir Sefal. Now, I don't want to individually dig out players. I love Sefal. You can see it from the top here, but it's just to highlight why it was such a problem. This was his heat map against Everton and his stats against Everton. This was Sefal. 66% pass completion, 0 out of 4 accurate passes, 2.8 accurate, 0.8, sorry, 2 out of 8 accurate long balls, 28 times he lost possessions. He only won 6 of his ground duels. And the comparison here is into Thilo Kira, As you can see with the heat map as well, 93% pass completion, 47 touches, 100% long ball accuracy, one shot blocked, 5 out of 7 ground duels won. He only lost possession 5 times, 4 clearances, 1 interceptions, and 5 tackles. But it wasn't just about that. It was about what he did in support of this man here, Jared Bowen.
Exactly.
And you mentioned it to me, and I thought, well, yeah, clever. I'll bring it up. Look at the heat map for Jared Bowen here now on the attack on the right hand side. I'll go through his stats in a second, but let's look at his heat map in comparison against Everton.
Yeah, and
Look
it's
at the
that
amount
big,
of time.
it's that big dot there. And don't forget that Everton game, Gray got man of the match, didn't he?
Yeah,
It was left-sided. The left winger got and so so in essence, Soufal and Bowen's side. So it's that red spot at the bottom. That's the issue. He spent just as much. He spent more time, it looks like, in his defensive half than he does in the attacking half, and he's meant to be the forward. So that's what Kira brings. It allows Bowen to, and obviously it's not. Obviously we're comparing, apples and pears, because, so to speak, in terms of, whoever was on the left for Wolves, was it Al Nouri on the left, was left back, and I can't remember who was left side. They played 3, didn't they? 4-3-3. So it's slightly different, but it shows what we want. We want Bowen in that top half, not in that bottom half. And as you can see, he was barely in the bottom half in terms of touches.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his stats for the game was 1 goal. He got 45 touches, 3 key passes, 2 shots on target, 2 shots blocked, 5 out of 8 ground duels won, 2 out of 3 aerial duels won, lost possession 13 times, 1 clearance, 1 block shot, 1 interception, 2 tackles. He had a much better game in a West Ham shirt yesterday, but like he was finding a little bit of form, and long may that continue. But a much needed game for Jared Bowen, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was his best game he's played for this season.
Yeah.
End of. He was finding pockets. What I liked was he wasn't stuck on the right side. He was cutting in, as you saw with some of those kicks with Scamacca. He was playing almost as an up front when Scamacca was dropping down. He was almost playing Cornet and Bowen as 2 up front, and Scamacca was playing as a 10 sometimes. It was just a lot of movement, and he seemed to really enjoy the game. So he was turning and running. There was several times where Soucek was doing the overlap instead of him. He just looked a lot more direct. He was in the 2 or 3 shots in the box where he was cutting in. He was unlucky to, and obviously him cutting into the box and getting his shot deflected took it out to Scamacca, who took his shot for his goal. So it was Bowen's sort of wiliness to get into the box, which set him up, as well as obviously getting his goal as well, which was much needed for him. Much needed. He needs not just for West Ham, but for England as well.
I think when it comes to the team news, though, I think people were a bit gutted at the fact that Jared Bowen had stayed on the park. Tommy Soucek had stayed on the park. But I think when myself and Matt were talking about the team news, I think you were the same as well, Russ. We were talking about the amount of changes that need to be made, and I didn't see David Moyes making upwards of 7 changes between tactical decisions, player movements, and players coming in. And I think in total it was 4, but they were effective. And it's going to be interesting now to see, because obviously we'll have to wait and see what happens with Max Cornet. In terms of that, we've got loads of games coming up, but we just needed 3 points on the board. And it wasn't over the top convincing, but it was professional squad performance, wasn't it?
It was. And don't forget also, fair play to Bowen, dislocated his finger and he carried on playing.
Yeah.
He proper dislocated it as well. He's proper like at a 90-degree angle. And because I came up on the screen and I said, oh, he'll be off for that because it's a dislocated finger, and he strapped it up and carried on. Which again shows, and actually one of the things which really pleased me about yesterday, and it's something which no one will know apart from probably about 10 people, is they did a walk around the pitch pre-match. Yeah. They haven't done one of those all season. And that's one thing I loved about the West Ham team the last 2.5 years since Moyes has come in, is they have a walk around the pitch about 2 hours before kickoff. Yeah. All together, jostling. Some people on their phone, but no headphones. It's all like everyone's having a good laugh, and and they did that yesterday. And I was like, do you know what? That's good, because that just shows a bit of team cohesion, coercion, team togetherness. And yeah, it was a lot. It was not nicer to see because actually, we've heard, there's been. Scamacca said it's quite quiet dress. It's been a quite quiet dressing room recently, and hopefully this will start buzzing people around a little bit because that's when West Ham play best. Is when the team's buzzing together as a unit rather than as individuals.
Absolutely. I thought it was a great captain's performance for Declan Rice. He played the full game, 70 touches, 86% pass completion, 2 key passes, 6 out of 7 attempts were successful for his long ball accuracy. He had 100% dribble success in his game. He won the majority of his ground duels. He won all of his aerial duels. Only lost possession 12 times. Block shots, interceptions, tackles, you name it. Declan Rice was stepping up there, and I think he really enjoyed having his old teammate, Tommy Soucek, performing, and his new teammate, Paqueta, performing. You can see that from his Instagram posts and everything there, talking about how special these players are. And I think he's really excited by what Paqueta can really bring to West Ham.
Definitely, and I think also, it's the type of game where Declan Rice should have been dominating. When you look at who he's up against, the fact is Wolves play a 4-3-3. Ruben Neves was dropped back into centre back. They had Martini. They haven't got a real big domineering sort of central midfield really. So we should have been dominating that, and we did dominate it. We let them. I think it was about 67% possession or something like that. They had a lot of ball, but I think they had about 1 or 2 shots on target. I think it was the whole game. I thought they played better when I think Diego Costa came on. I thought he was. I thought he fair. I thought he came on and he was unlucky not to have hit the target with his cross. He should have done better with that. But they just seemed a bit more. They had a focal point, and they seemed to play a bit better.
I thought he looked like he'd not really been missing from the Premier League, to be honest.
I know, he looked really good.
He made good runs. You know what? Like a couple of more weeks in him, he probably could have caused us a bit more concern. He broke our defence, albeit, he was offside. And he had that glancing header, which was unmarked. I think that was one moment that I noticed the lack of concentration with West Ham at the back. Tommy Soucek earlier on had just stepped off Costa, and it was as if no one had passed them on. At that point, you've got 2 options here. You would expect your central defenders to realise that he's unmarked, but equally, though, it looks like Tommy Soucek doesn't pass him on. But then again, we're not on the field, so we don't really know. So it's just a lack of concentration there that could have really cost West Ham, but we managed to get away with it. Ball possession, Wolves had 61% of the possession over West Ham's 39. We had 18 shots to Wolves' 15. Wolves do like to shoot from distance, though. They tested the keeper very early on. From the start of the game, they had 4 on target to West Ham's 5. They had 4 block shots to West Ham's 8. They won 6 corners to our 1 corner as well. But they had a lot more passes. They were accurate in 87% of their passing. However, they do have players that are all about passing. They've got these nifty, tricks. They're clever footballers in their team. But their biggest problem is their outlet is putting balls in the back of the net. Really, isn't
I think the trouble is that you look at who they brought in. Sasa from Stuttgart. He's the second tallest player in the Premier League. He got injured straight away. Did his ACL, didn't they? Jimenez was out, and they looked like a team without a forward. It looked like and I think. And I think when they said when Diego Carlos came on, he seemed to be they seemed to more vision, more sort of forward momentum. If that makes sense. They knew where they were going. They played a lot of passing, lot of nice football, tricky little 1-2s, but they weren't doing anything to penetrate really. It was just
that's what I was just about to say. Yeah, they come up trumps in the passing stats and the accurate passes and with the crosses. However, their dribble attempts, they attempted 19 dribbles, were only successful 7 of them, and they lost possession dramatically more than what West Ham did in the game. West Ham won most of our duels. We won most of and we outscored them on our aerial duels, one as well. We were out tackling them, and we were out clearing. Everything really in terms of our defensive duties and our midfield duties were out scoring the opposition, and that's exactly what we want in it.
Well, especially, and then when you get, when he makes Bruno made a couple of substitutions, and then they started singing "You Don't Know What You're Doing." The Wolves fans were singing that at the stadium yesterday. So that's That was like, okay, well, that's it then. You clearly know if the fans have turned on him, saying they don't know what you're doing. I thought, well, I was surprised they didn't wait. They waited until Sunday to sack him rather than Saturday night, to be honest. But yeah, it's you're not going to get many better footballing teams in that bottom half at the moment in terms of Wolves. They're very good football inside, but it's that final third they've always. And I thought they would have done. They bought well. I thought in the summer, but it just doesn't work for them. I thought Nunes. I thought he didn't get enough boos for my liking, Nunes, because obviously he rejected us for Wolves. And quite publicly rejected us because Moyes said in his press conference, didn't he, that we'd put a bid in for him, but he didn't want to come to us, and he went to Wolves. Didn't think he had a great game. I thought, we pretty much dominated that midfield and should have scored a couple more. In all honesty, we should have scored a couple more, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I'm delighted. We got the 3 points. We're pushing our way up the league. We've got a busy October coming up and November before the World Cup break. But when we needed the points the most, we got the points, and that is the key element here. That's the key point. So I'm delighted. Good to get Paqueta firing on all cylinders. Decker's loving the support. Scamacca up top. Antonio coming on, making an appearance and doing a good job as well. Looking good. Yeah, he made the transatlantic flight, but it's good now that we've got options. And if we are chasing the game, we've got a lot of options off the bench for us. We really do. Antonio, you can bring him on like for like with Scamacca, or you can bring him on with Scamacca. You've got bring Paqueta off. You've got options there for Niles. You've got Ben Rama, Lanzini. There's options. It
was when the squad was announced. Martin, bless him, he got a bit ahead of himself, I think, but he's like, it's the best bench he's seen for years. But actually, as a squad, it looked fucking strong.
Yeah.
Considering Ben Johnson's still not in that squad, Aguerd was in the dugout, which was good to see, which is great. We know he's on the grass at the moment. So bring those two in, and when you've not. And when you're not playing, you're not starting with your Premier League all-time goal scorer. Ben Rama didn't get any minutes. Lanzi didn't get. I can't remember. But yeah,
they will this week.
Yeah, but they will this. They will
well
Thursday.
over this month. Yeah, they will over this month.
Oh, God, yeah.
I wouldn't worry about that. Anyway, that brings an end to the analysis show. Keep your comments coming in. If you're new around here, please make sure you do go across and click that cheeky subscribe button.
It's very cheeky.
Yeah, it's very is so. Yeah, very is so. Is that even a thing?
Very is so.
Hit the thumbs up.
I've just found out that Scotland has B&M, so there we go. So I'm not
even going to get you started on that one. Hit the thumbs up. Leave a comment. Give us your honest feedback. It really does go a long way to help us out and let us know if you're enjoying the content we're putting out on the channel. Later on, though, make sure you join DJ Russie B for the Lunchtime Live, West Ham Daily, player ratings, you name it. You get a very interactive show where you get to go ahead and score all of these players as we start to plan now for the Europa Conference League, then the Premier League, then the Europa Conference League, then the Premier League, then the Europa Conference League. You name it, Russ.
It's crazy, mate. It's crazy. And then don't forget we got on Tuesday night we've got AD coming on doing a Miami's 11. So that'd be a really good show as well. So check that out.
Get on it. If you are new around here and you want to become a channel member, you can click the join option as well. That lets you know what options you've got available to become a channel member. Myself and Russell working behind the scenes to get our website up and running for you. We're excited to be launching that very, very soon, and loads of other stuff coming your way. So if you have to, click that bell notification, because that will then notify you with all of the updates. And as we always do, Russie boy, when we finish a show, we like to thank all of you members who do support us out. So Russ, final words.
Come on, you Irons. Let's win on Thursday. Let's start some momentum going now. Let's start the momentum going now. That's what we need.
Absolutely. Irons.
the same. Once you let it change. It's like a family tree. Part of you and part of me.